All right, welcome to our next interview in our Innovation in Mining series. My name is Erica, and I'm the Canadian chapter lead of the Artemis Project, which is a collective of women-owned businesses serving the mining industry. So today I have with me here Ali Stone, who is a renowned leader. She has a background in hospitality, interestingly enough, and she made the move as an entrepreneur through many different industries. And she's played pivotal roles in developing 15 different businesses, building and scaling them into $140 million a year enterprises. So that's the scale of some mining companies. That's pretty cool, Ali, that you've got that range. And her business is called Inspired Leader. We're here to talk about leadership today. Here specifically thinking about this for mining leaders. So Ali, there's lots of people in our audience that run mining companies, either from the corporate level, regional office level, or at the site. And they are people leaders, and they could be wondering, how can I build my business? How can I make it more effective? And specifically, how can I bridge the gap between myself as a leader and the people that are on the front lines doing the work that adds most value to the business? So I thought that would be a great place for us to jump in here. How can leaders bridge the gap?
Oh, well, I first of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I think there are so many ways, Erica. I think like when we start to think about our businesses as people centric or people first, people focused, we start to shift our thinking. One of the things about the mining industry that's actually quite similar to hospitality and a lot of industries I've worked with subsequently is that mining is very fast paced, right? There is a lot going on all the time. It's very hard to find time to kind of like slow down and think about these things and really get into the nitty gritty of how we can improve. And so this idea of focusing in on our people and like starting to think about how we're going to bridge this gap
Mm.
between leaders and our frontline can be so incredibly powerful, and it can be done while we're working, while we're moving through business. And so I think that that's a really important first thought to talk about, because often we talk about leadership development, people are like, oh, I don't really have the time, or when are we going to get the space to do that, or how does that look? And through my process with the Inspired Leader, it's a collaborative process where we start to look at different ways to get curious and create different strategies around how we're showing up and how we are bridging that gap and making that collaborative communication happen.
Love that. Absolutely. And so many mining leaders, they really prize safety, and they also prize production, getting those results that can really weigh on their hearts and minds so much. And like you said, sometimes we have this idea of, leadership or employee engagement sounds like a good idea, but when are we going to find time to do that? So I love what you're suggesting, that it can be done, integrated into the day-to-day of a fast-paced business environment like a mine site, and that you can still get the benefits of it sort of on the go. So talk to us about, like, what are the benefits? Why is this something that leaders should be thinking about investing time in? Like, what happens when you
Oh,
bridge the
yeah.
gap?
I think I'm really lucky to have my experience in hospitality because it's such a people focused business, right? So it
Yeah.
became such a big part of who I was as a leader, as a CEO, and then what that meant for me then working with other companies and how we could look at people. But there's a lot of studies out there. There's a lot of statistics around the impact of focusing in on people. Like on average, I believe it's like a Gallup study, like 2023. It was like a 23% increase in productivity and like a 21% increase in ROI.
Mm.
Just by creating these connections, bridging this gap between our top line and our front line in organizations, and the impact that this can have is incredible. I know one of the things about the mining industry specifically, a lot of industries these days, is we have a talent crisis. Right?
Mm.
We have a talent crunch. It is hard to find really great people. And so when we get these great people, we want to keep them. We want to keep them happy. We want to make sure that they're engaged, that they love what they're doing, that they feel respected in their work. And the only way we're going to do this is if we start to make that connection, start to have that collaboration. So I'm not sure if I fully answered your question there. I think I did though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I
okay.
mean, that's sort of the magic word these days, I think in mining or maybe a lot of industries is employee retention, right? And the positive, there's a feel good aspect of engaging your front lines and saying to them, what do you think? And there's really a difference between a leader doing that live versus say an employee opinion survey that drops in their email or drops in their desk with a piece of paper, they need to fill it out. There's something very personal and very dignified about talking to your people, engaging their ideas, getting their feedback about what could be done better. And I
Mhm.
know we were talking a little bit offline about how we've got these two high profile examples. New CEOs of Starbucks and Boeing came
Mhm.
on board very recently, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to the baristas, they're talking to the people in the shop floor building the planes
Yeah.
to engage them and hear their opinions and see what they can do. Maybe get some little nuggets of information that wouldn't otherwise come through. So clearly this has got a lot of this idea has a lot of steam in other industries too.
Yeah, and I think there's this I always say it's about bringing the heart of humanity back to our business, no matter what business you're in.
Mm.
Even if you are a highly technological, AI focused business, you still need people to run that business, right? We still need to have those connections. And the ripple effect of this work that I do that I have seen is like profound. I was working with a large it's like a steel manufacturing company, really large, huge fabrication floor. So they had about 400 team members, and then they had the senior level leadership team, and there was a big divide between what was happening in the office and what was actually happening on the floor, and they were losing a lot of their frontline team members, their fabricators, and they were
Mm.
really struggling to replace them when they turned. And so when I went in and started working with them, we started talking about, how much they knew about them, what the connection was, what their processes were for hearing their thoughts and their ideas. And there really wasn't a lot. And when we started to dig into that and even just make some micro shifts together, the retention turned around, employee
Oh.
tenure went up like 3% in like 6 months. And it was crazy to really see the difference that even these little shifts could make. And we can make really big changes too, right? But
Mm.
the one thing I always say to leaders, especially again in the mining industry, because it's so busy, it's so fast paced, is that it doesn't have to be this massive sweeping change to see results. It just requires a little bit different thinking, a little bit different focus, the curiosity to look at things a little differently. And when we do that, the impact can be incredible on the bottom line of your business. So,
Love that. Well, thank you, Allie, for sharing that success story. I'm like cheering here just to know you were able to make that happen for your client. It's fantastic. And great reminder as well that this doesn't have to be super time consuming, right? There is obviously a little bit of effort and an investment of time that's needed to start this process. But if a company's never done it before, it sounds like they can really get some good benefits very quickly by starting to engage with this process.
yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
agreed.
So, how would mining leaders in our audience get in touch with you to learn a little bit more about what you do and what you might be able to do for them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, so I'm part of the Artemis Project with all of you amazing women, and so excited to be part of that. My company is called The Inspired Leader, so you can find it at theinspiredleader.com, and you can reach out to me through there or send me an email at ally@theinspiredleader.com, and I can let you know a little bit more about what this process might look like.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Allie, so much for sharing some of the wins that you've had here. I think, going back to that the scenario you just talked to about employee retention, so often with the mining leaders I talk to, they say, "Well, we're losing people. Not sure what we can do about that." Like, it's almost perceived as one of those things that's kind of out of their control, or, oh, maybe some other minds are offering different things than we are, or they sort of see it as something that they don't have access to solving. And what you're saying, what I hear you saying, is that this is something that you can address. There are ways to move the needle on this issue that is just so incredibly important to their business, and it doesn't even have to take a ton of time.
Yeah, and more within our control as leaders than we realize, which is amazing, right? Because it's a big struggle. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Allie, for that inspiring message from the head of the Inspired Leader.
Thanks, Erica.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you today. Thanks, everyone, for watching.